Hi guys, last slot of the afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. I'll keep you here for about 20 minutes, and then the good news is I'm paying for the drinks, so that's all a good reason to stay with me. Hey, come on. First of all, a big thanks to Tim and the guys for I think it's been a really good day. Some really inspiring stuff, really different stuff actually. Really, really good. And what I'm going to try and do here is just wrap up a little bit of some of the themes that we've heard today, and also tell you a little bit about Huddle and what we do, and hopefully bring together some of the two themes really that I've got up on the board here. Social, we've heard a lot about social tools, the consumerization of software, students using these tools and staff using these tools, and the challenges of IT departments in responding to them. And we've heard a bit about collaboration, that dirty word, staff working with staff working with students working with each other. So I'm going to try and bring it all together, talk about some of the themes that we've heard about today, what's happening next, and a little bit about Huddle. See if this works. Oh, if not, go down. Okay, first of all, start off with our old friend Dilbert. Given we've got themes of old and new, this is the old world, old school. Everything that is bad about enterprise IT, enterprise work, the boring world that our students, when they leave and go into work, find so terrible. I know I did, and I still do, actually, to be honest. And that lovely phrase, teamwork killed it. Now let's look at new school. And I think it's very relevant given what we've been talking about today. Absolutely fantastic. A really big case of emperor's new clothes there. And the very frustration, everything is a platform. Exactly. So there's a lot of myths out there, a lot of fiction. And a lot of these words are absolutely that, myths and fiction. A lot of emperor's new clothes, a lot of people using some great phrases to describe what has always been done, but just in a slightly new way. And Web 2.0 is probably the biggest of them all. It's a great way to describe what we do. And those of us in the industry, very frustrating, because obviously, as that first cartoon, or the second cartoon showed, we've been doing a lot of this stuff already. So that's really the theme of what I'm talking about now, is taking what's been done before and actually just making it more relevant and useful, empowering ourselves with the new technologies we've got now. But actually, we aren't reinventing the world. We're just doing the same things, but doing them slightly better. And learning and learning from this morass of new tools and new information to do that slightly better. So this is the fiction. What's fact or reality? Well, the reality is, if you're managing an IT system, or if you're a business user, or even a student, is you've got tools to use. So you just have a massive range of tools to use. And over the last 2 years, an even bigger explosion in those tools, particularly social tools. So, Facebook or Google Docs and spreadsheets, consumerization of software. If you're an old school enterprise, the elephant in the room, SharePoint. You've got obviously LinkedIn, you've got wikis, you've got project management tools, Basecamp, great software as a service project management tool. But that's the reality. So what the hell do we use? What should our students use? What should we be recommending to our students? What should we be recommending to our staff? How do we control all this? And this is a theme I've heard from a lot of people today. When actually, all we want to do is get people to work together better. And of course, that's what we try and do at Huddle. That's our motto. But that's actually all we're trying to do, is make it easier for people to share stuff, make the extraordinary ordinary. We've talked about that. Make it easier for staff to work together, but also staff to work with their students more effectively. And the big thing, obviously, reduce cost. And the big question is all these social tools that are free, and Huddle does have a free version like Google does, is that going to be cheaper in the long run? Or are we just passing costs from one place over to another? With enterprise IT, it's all very easy to see where your costs are, but actually what's the real hidden costs in this? And there are some. So getting people to work together better is collaboration. That's what the word means. And on my definition, collaboration is confusing, complicated, crowded, and costly. Confusing because lots of people talk about collaboration, but what the hell does it actually mean? Complicated because there are lots of tools out there. Crowded, the marketplace is very crowded. What tools do you use? And costly because if you implemented all those tools, you'd spend an awful lot of money. And you probably are already. virtual learning environments, intranets, extranets, staff tools, tools you're going to give your students. Collaboration doesn't equal email, an intranet, a wiki, a forum, new technologies. Yes, they might be part of collaborating and working together, but it's not just one of those. And I think the academic community is a lot better at this than the enterprise kind of community who we talk to, big FMCGs like Boots or whatever who use Huddle, who say, but we've got a wiki. And you go, great, brilliant, well done. And so we allow us, so how many people use that? Well, I don't know. So yeah, it's not that. And to be honest, that's what's been brilliant about these sessions here is that there's been a recognition that it's a lot more than that and trying to get our heads around it. So that's fantastic. So we're already a long way there. Collaboration does equal all of those things, a lot more, and use some new tools in there, but also obviously equals people. I mean, that is the biggest thing about collaboration, isn't it? Is working together. And in our rush to adopt new technologies, even social ones, we forget actually about the people, and that's why the last talk I thought was very good, because it is all about the people doing that. So you might have a social tool like a wiki and think, that's great, we've just enabled all our people to work together. Of course you haven't. You've got to get the people to use it, and actually, and that's why the next slide is so important, is learning from the social networks. So if you come from an enterprise background, you roll out a big old tool like, I don't know, not that I'm picking on anyone, but SharePoint. And you roll out SharePoint, and you say, okay, great, we've rolled that out, and this is awesome. This is going to be our intranet, our extranet, and it's going to have all our documents on it, and away we go, and I'm going to invite people into it, and so on. And then you realize that you get about 5% take-up, and you can't have anyone outside the organization using it, and everyone hates it anyway, and your administrators hate it because they've always been bamboozled with new requests. And I know this because I've rolled out a SharePoint system, several of them, especially in my old company, and we got about 5 to 10% take-up. And then you look at the social networks where you get a huge take-up because everyone actually likes using them. And you think, hang on, how does that work? So outside of the enterprise, everyone likes technology. Inside the enterprise or the organization, everyone hates it. So there's obviously a huge disconnect there. And that's why we have to learn from the social networks, not in making everything social, but what is it about them that work really well, and why do people love using them and hate using the technology we put in front of them? Well, the answer is because we work socially. So you have to allow for that in the way you work, and that's actually a very subtle thing. It's partly engineered into products like the social networks, but it's also a social and psychological element to it as well. And people have always said, well, it's the phrase, isn't it, the work-life balance. Work and life are different. Well, actually, work and life are completely connected and are increasingly the one and the same thing, especially with the ubiquitous of your mobile phone and the connectivity. And we also connect globally. And that's the other great thing about the social networks, is they dispelled the myth of the kind of the island of information and getting your hands around it and not allowing anything in and out. As they said, actually, you need to be able to open that up and work globally. The other thing they've been good at is obviously they're free, or sort of low cost, cut that out. And there's hundreds of these tools. I mean, if you go onto the Web 2.0 forums, there's bloody thousands of them that are free in inverted commas. And that's great in theory, but it is great if you're the user. It's a nightmare if you're the administrator, obviously, because someone's got to pay for it somewhere. But, and this is the big learning, we do need the boring stuff. We do need security. We do need servers and control. We can take advantage of the cloud and software as a service, but we do need these things. And this is where the big change, and I think the really interesting stuff that's going to be happening over the next 2 years across this, is the collision. The collision between the MySpace generation, now who, when I put this up, I used this slide 2 years ago, and I was saying, what's happening when the MySpace generation enter the world of work? Talk to CEOs, and they say, how old are your kids? Or IT directors, and it's how old are your kids? Well, they're 16, 17, they're using MySpace and Facebook and Twitter. And I'm scared stiff about what they're going to do when they're into my world of work, my sphere, because they don't care about firewalls and organization, all this stuff we've been talking about today. So there's a collision between that. This slide is now happening now, obviously. These people are work, half of my team have grown up on these birthright technologies. But it's the collision between these enterprise, what I call enterprise, I mean traditional IT needs and demands, and the new stuff, the social tools coming together. And I don't think we haven't worked it out, and I say we, I mean the industry, all of us here haven't worked it out. That's part of what today is about, bringing together enterprise and social. And this is where the really interesting stuff is happening. And who will win out? Will your current IT providers, Microsoft, Oracle, whatever, enable you to enable these sort of activities you want to do, the social activities, or will it be the social tools like Basecamp or Google or whatever, what's the answer? And the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Everything's always a grey area. And certainly with Huddle, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to say you've got to take the best of both worlds and recognise you want all the social tools and you also need the enterprise tools. So I think, forgetting the bit about Huddle and the sales message there, but I think it's really understanding, and it goes back to the core and context argument as well. It's what is actually we trying to do and what is actually important. Well, the importance is you want your students to be able to have lots of great software. You don't want them to have to pay for it, if possible. But also you want to be able to share with them some things securely, and you need them to be able to do stuff socially. Like the question that came, do you allow all your students into your Facebook profile? Well, obviously you don't want to do that. It's like giving out your phone number to all your students. And there are times when you want to do that, but there are also equally times when you don't want to do that. So it's about mixing and matching, and about realizing that this brave new world isn't actually that brave new. It's just an evolution of the way things have moved on. So last bit, and I promise I won't get too heavy on this, and I'll race through it so we can finish up and go for a drink or ask questions. What is Huddle.net? Well, it's a workspace application. So we're in a Huddle now, I guess. We've got people, we've got presentations, we've got documents, we've got discussions going on. That is what Huddle is. I invite you into a Huddle. You think this is great. You set up your own workspaces to do other stuff with other people. We were very kindly name-checked by some of the guys here, Ravensbourne and LMN, which is great. We're doing quite a bit of work in academia now, especially with big organizations in the US like Harvard and so on, and with the QIA, the Quango that works in this sector very heavily. All of whom are using Huddle to be able to work in projects, share documents, secure workspaces that are also interconnected with the wider Huddle network of workspaces that can be used for very much more social or open purposes. So why would you Huddle? Well, it's very simple, and I'll take the best example. You have a set of workspaces, a set of Huddles that you are using to manage research projects or share information between staff. You use it. You invite in. You have one that's also for your students to share course collateral. You invite all your students into that Huddle, and everyone can see the collateral. They can set up discussions. You can post notes, put in timetables of the various things that are going on. If those students, and me being an engineering student, I remember this vividly. You've got to then inevitably projects off the back of that. And those are working in cross-functional teams with guys who are in your department, outside your department. You'd set up your own Huddle to go and do that project. And you'd have the information from the Huddle that's run by the university, and you can also push that into your social open Huddle for that project. So that's what Huddle is. It's a series of workspaces. Each of it can be as locked down or as social as you want, but in each one has got all the tools you need to get stuff done. Students, staff and students, wide range of activities. What does it look like? Just so you know, that's what it looks like, or at least it will do when the new UI comes out in a couple of weeks' time. So you've got, this is a dashboard, so you've got all your workspaces on the left-hand side, widgets of all of activity that's going on in your workspaces, and those workspaces up there could be really private, ones controlled by the university, or they could be free ones that you've set up. So that's it. That is Huddle. And then you go into a workspace, and then you've got the tools, the documents you need for managing projects, for sharing files, tasks, meetings, discussions. They're all available for everyone. Everyone can set these up, unless, of course, you've locked this Huddle down and you decide this is an enterprise one, or we want to be careful about who's in it and what they're doing. So that's it. A race through what Huddle is and some of the thoughts. Do come and see me. I'll be standing up there and hopefully have some drinks when we go across the road. Thanks very much for your time. I think a final thanks probably to Tim and everyone for a great time. And if I leave you with nothing else apart from Huddle, is to say, don't take the best of the old with the best of the new. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And actually, we'll be sitting here in 5 years' time debating exactly the same subjects, but it'll just be a different set of words and a different web, whatever, I don't know. But use the lessons you've learned, and thank you very much.